Welcome to Transform Now, a podcast focused on intelligent automation and brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. On this program, we talk about how organizations globally are rethinking the way they operate, utilizing process orchestration and AI-enabled digital workers to free up humans to do the work that matters most. We also share insights and tips on how you can embrace this new way of working and unleash your full potential. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. I'm Michael Marchuk.
And I'm Brad Hairston.
And this is our weekly pulse check on automation and AI news. So before we jump into it, all of the links for the articles I'll be covering today are in the show notes. So Brad, let's start with our first article. And this one comes from Benefits Pro, talking about something that we've seen before. Automation in employee benefits, a necessity for today's workforce. And some of this talks about the fact that with all of the new activities that are happening within the HR realm related to some of the remote work and whatnot, they're finding a lot of demand and are needing to find ways to be more efficient in their work. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm surprised they're getting to this conclusion at this point, because I think this is one of the most obvious automation use cases, especially in the HR realm. But I'm glad they're getting there. And I concur. I mean, nothing is as painful and as tedious as benefits enrollment or HR onboarding. I mean, these processes take way too long. They always have. Doesn't matter what company you're with. I even talked to a company that was telling me how offboarding was their biggest issue. Sometimes employees would leave the company and it would be 30 days before they would have their corporate cards shut down or have their logins taken down. And that's terrifying, right? To think about that. So I think automation has a huge role to play in HR. And I think benefits is a great use case. And I agree with so many employees coming and going and working from home and what have you. It's just added complexity, and all of that's going to make it even more slow, go slower and be more painful. So put digital workers against that can have a huge impact.
I would say so, especially considering that these are pretty well-defined processes, bringing employees into the organization and making sure that all their stuff is shut down when they do leave the organization. It's not like something that's new. I mean, these things are happening at between 4 and 12, 15% of your organization is turning every year. And you have 100,000 employees. That's between 4 and 15,000 employees you have to turn on and off as they go in and out of the organization. So that's a lot of activity. We a lot of times focus on the finance side of the transactions, but we're seeing quite a few of these same kind of transaction counts when you look at it from the HR side. So absolutely agree with you there. Our next article is from the New York Times, and I love the title of this one. If AI can do your job, maybe it can also replace your CEO. What are your thoughts on that, Brad?
I would ask the question, who's really in the position of power and influence and leadership in that role? Is it a machine or is it a human? And if you say AI is eliminating your CEO, that means essentially the CEO is being replaced by algorithms. And those algorithms are designed and written and trained by who? By humans. So yes, you don't have a CEO anymore, but you now have an automation and AI group or a team of data scientists that are running the company. So I think it's a provocative thing to say that, we can get rid of the CEO. I don't really see that necessarily being viable. And I think, I love the whole thread about the fact that we as humans have unique capabilities. We have innate skills that will never truly be automated. And some of those are very applicable to the CEO job. Setting strategy, defining vision, having motivation and inspiration to solve a need in the market. These are not things that machines inherently can do in and of themselves. They are human qualities. So I challenge that. I would say we need a human leading companies. Doesn't mean they can't use AI in a significant way throughout their organization. But the person at the top, I think, needs to be human. Elon Musk recently was making some wild comments about the future and we won't have any jobs. AI will automate everything and all goods and services will be immediately available to all of us. It seems way out there, very utopian, and it takes away, it totally removes things like greed and, bad intentions that we know are going to still exist, right? As long as you have humans, you're going to have people that aren't happy with whatever situation they're in. So it was a crazy thing to hear what he was talking about. But I guess he would agree with this article that the CEOs could be replaced.
I think he's coming in from like you said, a sort of antagonistic position related to this, indicating some of the potentials that they've seen with AI and whatnot. But to your point, AI or anything else, until it becomes self-aware, talk about Skynet, until it becomes self-aware and understands how it can own its own purpose. People have purposes, and we use those purposes in our organizations that we work for, because the organization has a purpose that's defined by our board of directors, that's guided by the people who are put in place at these executive positions. So
that's right.
I don't think this again was maybe to think a little bit more about, oh gosh, there's a lot of activities that are being transitioned to AI. Could a CEO be doing it? I'm not sure that we'd want it to. Even if it could, I'm not sure you'd want it to.
Right.
Our third article for today is from Microsoft at MSN. They talk about a new model. So we've heard a lot about large language models, LLMs, and Microsoft has come out now with a small LLM. So is it making a small language model? I'm not sure, but the idea behind it is it's a model that's been trained to be able to be equivalent to sort of what we saw in November 2022 with ChatGPT 3.5. And the reason why they're looking at these smaller large language models, which again, I can't get that out of my mind, smaller large language model, is really to understand how to reduce the impact we're having by doing the processing of all of these queries and stuff that are coming in, because they are quite a burden on data centers and our energy grid and everything else to get these CPUs burning so hot to answer these queries for these very large language models. So they've released 5.3, which is small enough to fit on your phone. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's probably a pretty powerful iPhone. It's probably not the one I have sitting next to me here. I'm imagining, we've been talking about large language models incessantly for the past 18 plus months. And it is a trend that small language models are proliferating and at a very fast pace. And it's not, as you said, a lot of reasons for that. They're generally easier to train, to fine tune, to deploy. They're cheaper to run. They use less energy. They can be tailored to more narrow and specific applications. So there's a lot of good reasons to go down the SLM path, and we have lots of them on the market. Hugging Face, I think, has a gazillion of them. There are open source SLMs everywhere. Are they as good as large language models, and can they provide the incredible outcomes that we've come to know now through LLMs? Time will tell. I have not myself had the chance to play around with any SLMs. Maybe 5.3 will get to my iPhone and I'll get a chance to do that. But I do think it's a trend that we'll continue to see, and lots of positive buzz in the market about SLMs. I think the energy consumption piece is one that people are talking about quite a bit, because it is true, these LLMs are energy hogs. They take huge computational resources. They consume a lot of energy. And that's something that has to be, dealt with in the right way, in a sustainable way, going forward. So not surprised that we now have one that can fit on the iPhone.
Yeah, I can imagine that there probably are a lot of applications to this too, especially when you look at the distributed nature. If we all have a phone in our pocket, these are all CPUs that could be leveraged to run these individual models to do maybe more tailored tasks, say personal assistance kind of tasks that you'd have with you, or you can interact with it, interact with your calendar or with your activities that are happening, and maybe get suggestions based on that without having to go to a large language model to get more sophisticated responses. So I imagine this is going to be something that not only Microsoft, but I'm sure Apple and others are putting together. You mentioned there's a number of open source ones. There's a need for it for sure, because we all have these things in our pocket, and it would offload the responsibilities as well as the data back to your phone, which now could be maybe a little more personalized and perhaps more private then as well. So
Yeah.
interesting concepts, and certainly this market is ever evolving. So, well, that's the three we got for today. Every week we find out there's so much more happening in this marketplace. Make sure you stay tuned to here. Subscribe, and we will make sure that we get you out the information that you're looking for as soon as it comes out. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of intelligent automation, subscribe now. The future of work is here.